Hey everybody, welcome back. I decided to start this series because I want to get into the habit of recording every day. So I figured I would call it a journal for now rather than call it a daily or even a weekly. I mean, I can't promise anything. I'm just going to give it a shot. So essentially what I'm going to do is I'm going to give a reading for the collective that I'll put at the beginning of every video, and also to talk a little bit about the astrology that we have. Basically, the way I'm building my channel is so that you watch the monthly first, and theoretically that stays relevant to you throughout the month, that you can keep going back to in terms of the astrology that I've put at the top. And then with the journals and with other astrological event specific readings, we'll be carrying the theme through the month. So what do we have today and this week to think about? This particular journal is for May 11th, 2020. And so I'm recording this on the 10th, and today Saturn goes retrograde in Aquarius. So these themes are going to be around the brotherhood, perhaps even, a good look, a review of what it is we think that the age of Aquarius is supposed to be and what it will actually become or what it's becoming. So that's May 10th. Now, May 12th and 13th, that is when Venus goes stationary retrograde in Gemini. So it's going to be all about love relationships, but it's also going to be very much about Gemini themes of communication, and almost, like an extra push with Mercury being Gemini's ruler in terms of the dynamics around what this retrograde season is going to be like. So that's two planets that are just happening this week. The other thing that we have to also be ready for is on May 16th, which is this Sunday, I believe. We have our sun aligning with Alcyon, the galactic center. So as I said in the monthly report, that this is going to be, we're going to be flooded with divine feminine energies, and it's going to be intense, I would imagine. And, it's going to be interesting how this is going to be reflected in world events as much as in our own personal lives. So be prepared. It's fair warning to you. I wouldn't necessarily say that we could blame Alcyon for everything, but if things seem pretty intense starting this Sunday, it's going to be like a 4-day gate. So as we get closer to it, we'll focus a little bit more on what that means for us generally in terms of energies and whatnot. So I think I'm just going to move forward and grab the Rider-Waite to pull one card. That's it. Just one card from Rider-Waite, and then I'm going to do Lenormand and Marcia McLuhan, Distant Early Warning deck. So let's see the sorts of things that we're going to be focusing on today, May 11th. The Five of Cups. So, it was funny because I was reading an article from a psychologist that most of us are heading into, psychologically, statistically wise, the hardest time in terms of being isolated and quarantined and sequestered from society, from social interaction. So if you're feeling emotional this week, if you're grieving things that, I don't know, maybe you even thought you were intellectually over, it would be, with all the retrogrades You know, it'll be about feeling and also about communicating and sharing those feelings. Um, you know, on a community level, on a one-to-one, and you know, we're likely to see more stories in the news in the coming days about people in their struggles with loneliness and isolation. So that's definitely something to be thinking about. You know, I've been trying to emphasize in most of my readings how important self-care is right now for all of us. It really is a time for making sure that everything's okay. So if things are not okay, you know, it's probably not a bad idea this week to reach out for some help. So let's see here what the Lenormand has to say. Well, this is really nice. This is the Lily. It's a beautiful card. Look at that. So the Lily suggests maturity, you know, growing in understanding, you know, there's an emotional intelligence emerging if you're willing to reach for it. You know, out of all the sadness, out of all the loneliness and whatnot, you know, that that at times like these, it's really important that we sincerely enjoy our own company. And if we're not enjoying our own company, it's not because we're not interesting enough or smart enough, or you know, any of the things that makes us feel less than. You know, it really is a time to see, you know, how resilient and how wonderful the human spirit really is in times like these. And you know, a good way to distract yourself from your own sadness is to reach out to someone else and check in on them, or find a way to contribute to something that's taking care of people, whether it be some sort of charity or outreach program. You know, depending on how much our isolation is legislated, you know, I think that it's going to be really important for there to be real tangible support for those who are struggling with mental health issues. So I'm going to move on to Marshall McLuhan's Distant Early Warning deck and see what kind of insight we can get from Marshall. Marshall has really helped me to understand the way media works on individuals and society, and how important it is to be conscious of the kinds of media that you consume. So let's see what, you know, pearl of wisdom Marshall is giving us today. Okay. So the silicone bosom symbolizes the thin edge of the trial balloon. So whatever that means for you, I mean, for me, I'm looking at it as being, you know, representative of the digital age, and how, you know, the thin edge of the wedge of how technology works for us and can work against us is a fascinating subject to explore. So, thank you for joining me today with my first installment of a journal, Bon Echo's Tarot Journal, I think I'm calling it, yeah. So, now on to your sign-specific reading. Hey there, Virgo. And these are your cards for Bon Echo's Tarot Journal for May 11th. So let's see what the tarot has for Virgo today. Oh, little bit of confusion. Neptune may be to blame. This is a lot of options, past and present, that you seem to be kind of cycling through in your head. You know, you start thinking about it, and then it kind of, you get kind of derailed, and then another aspect of something will pop in and interfere, and you just can't think straight. But you know, you're not really supposed to think straight in a retrograde. You know, you're definitely on a spiral, and you know, you kind of have to follow the curve of the lesson. And so you're in the portion of the curve where you don't have any clarity as to what is going on around you, inside you, in your community, the world. You know, it's just, you just don't get it, and it's kind of overwhelming for you right now. So, but you know, this too shall pass. Alright, so let's see what sort of Lenormand symbolism we can get for Virgo. Ah, very good. Childlike. You may be hanging out with a Gemini. If you are, you'll be lucky because they'll be in the same headspace. It's a good time to spend with children. It's a good time to spend with your childlike imagination. It is good for you to bring your childlike spirit to the community and share it. So, so Virgo, you know, if you're confused, just stop thinking and play. It's playtime. So, what does Marshall have to say? Ooh, I knew one. Okay, so Japanese wife. A Japanese wife never speaks irritably to her husband. I can't see. So sorry. She merely rearranges the flowers. Ah, a Japanese wife never speaks irritably to her husband. She merely rearranges the flowers. So, there you go. Well, that's interesting. So, Virgo, I hope you found that insightful. Have a great day.